Welcome to the Scale Model Junkie YouTube channel. Hey, welcome back all my fellow Scale Model Junkies. In this video, we're going to be building the 1/48th scale Bandai ATST from their Star Wars lineup. This is a fun little kit. There's not a lot of parts, so it should be a pretty easy, quick build. It's a little change of scenery from the normal stuff that I've been doing. The kit is a snap together. There really is no glue required. However, I do glue the parts just so that they don't come apart, in case somebody moves it or something like that. So building this, I really don't show the actual construction portion of it just because it's kind of simple and boring. But I show you the overall kind of sub-assemblies that I'll do. And I really kind of get that done and out of the way before I move on to the figures is where I'll start and pick up. So we just start with the painting of the figures. And again, I'm not really getting too crazy with the detail on these things because ultimately once the model's closed up, you can't see them anyway. But before we really get into the video, I'd really appreciate if you give me a like and subscribe to the channel. It kind of lets me know that you guys are liking what I'm putting out there. So let's continue. So I start with just, really quickly, easy painting these little figures. As you can see, that's an alligator clip that's holding it. So these things are really tiny. And like I said, after I painted them all up and had them in the compartment, you can't see them at all unless you shine a flashlight in there, and even then it's still difficult. So once the interior was put together, I just used a quick little coat of the aqueous primer. It's just flat black, so I get that all just good even coverage, and then I just dry brush the interior with a sky gray color, just to give it some contrast in there. This was just me adding a little detail like for buttons or lights, but again, this was pretty much for nothing because the way I have the model displayed, you can't see inside. So anyway, it's there. I know it's there. And this isn't based on any reference pictures, from drawings or from the movie. I just kind of saw a button and I paint it. There's no rhyme or reason why I picked the ones that I did. And again here, we're just trying to add a little bit of life inside of the cockpit, but alright, so after the cockpit was all put together, again, it went together really easy. These kits literally fall in place together. They snap right in. The way that Bandai designs them is amazing. It's a shame that all models can't be this easy to put together. But like I said, I did add a little bit of glue just to make sure that it was secured. And then, and the details on these things are really good. I mean, this looks like a little ATST walker, as you can see here. And it comes with a little base that you can put it on if you wanted to display it in that manner. I will eventually build my own little, base. But after the model was primed and I used the aqueous black, I used Mr. Color's lacquer-based 305 and 307 paint colors. And again, I just gave an even coverage with I believe the Mr. 305, the paint. I used that color first and then highlighted it with the 307. As you can see here, again, the model's got some pretty cool details. The benefit by gluing it was I was able to sand all the seam lines on the legs and kind of make it look like it was one solid piece. However, some of the stuff is pretty delicate, because it's just pinned in there, especially like the side guns. You'll see at one point I break off the shield that's on the outside of the gun, as you can see there. Here we're just using a little panel line wash just to kind of bring out the raised details. That stuff all will flow in any kind of crevice or recesses. It's an enamel based, and again, I sprayed the model with the lacquer so it doesn't affect it in any way. At this point, the model hadn't been clear coated or sealed with any type of varnish. And again, I just try to, it gives a little, it makes the panel lines and the details just kind of stand out, as well as giving it a little grimy look. We're going for that Star Wars feel, where this thing was on the battle of the Endor moon in Return of the Jedi. Where everybody kind of remembers these things from, who likes Star Wars. And again, I just used my memory and the box art for like reference. There's really, obviously it's a fictional vehicle, so it's not like there's actual loads of reference detail other than what is in the movie and what you can see online. So I kind of just, use my own artistic license here and just made it dirty and did what I want to do. That's the benefit about building a kit like this. There's really nothing, it doesn't matter what you do. You can make it however, whatever, you want. So I thought that was needed after a couple of my last builds. They're pretty time consuming, and this one I could do over the course of a weekend. And again, this is just more panel line, more, just dirtying the this machine up, kind of giving it that industrial, mechanical, grease stained, battle worn. That was the look that I was going for. And the good thing, the product that I'm using right here is all enamel based, so I was able to go back and clean it up with a mineral spirit and just with a cotton, like a Q-tip cotton bud, and it removed everything that I didn't want on there. This model here is more about the weathering than really the build, because the build literally took me maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half to do the whole thing. So again, we're just making sure we get all the cracks and crevices. I'm just using using the capillary action of the wash to just kind of seep where it needs to go. Do some streaking here. You'll see me here. I'll grab my Q-tip or cotton bud and I'll start removing the enamel wash. It's just a simple technique, but is an effective one. I use the motion, just try to use the motion that gravity would pull any type of, if there was rain or stuff dripping off of it, it would drip down, So that's what the effect that I went. Here I'm using a chipping color. I believe this was from the Atom range, the chipping paint. And I'm just going over with a ripped sponge and just going over where I would think that the feet would be nicked and getting scratched up from going over jungle terrain or anywheres where it's going to be getting kicked. I used my brush here. This is where I would chip it up if any of the crew climbing into this vehicle, would be grabbing that grab handle. So, obviously you got to show some wear and tear there, because that's the most highly access point to get in this thing. So now I'm moving to the backside again. Again, I'm just using the brush strokes and just trying to give some, grime, wear and tear. Obviously, it looks like this is where the engine or some type of exhaust would be. So on any vehicle, that's a dirty point. So that way I would I figured, okay, well, let's grunge this up a little bit. Hitting those race highlights gives the gives a little bit more of a depth and gives a contrast, kind of draws your eye in to look at all these little details. This dry brush that I'm using here, it's a water-based. This is the dry brusher by Ammo, and it's a water-based product, so it's easily removed if you don't like where you put it. So it definitely, and it gives a good effect. This is just a smoke color that I use. Again, it just adds a little bit of grime and dirt tones. This is, I believe, my rust tones that I start adding on, just to give it some, weathered, enhanced weathered effects, because it's obviously made of metal, or simulates being made of metal, so metal rusts when it's not taken care of. And if this thing is, in a battle scenario, getting chipped up and shot at, it's very possible that something could get rusty. You can see on the front plate that I actually, I guess maybe I didn't film it, but there's a blasting, a laser burn mark from the thing getting hit. I thought that was a pretty cool little feature that I added onto it. Again, hitting the underside with, it's all about just adding grime, more grime. Once you think you may added it, it once it dries, it doesn't look as beat up or as dirty as you wanted it, so you got to add some more. It's almost where I wanted to exaggerate the streaking. You can see the different tone variations on the legs, and again, the legs are probably going to be the more beat up and dirty part of it, because it's got the moving parts. And if you kind of translate it to something that would be real, they would have to grease and maintain areas like that. So when they do that kind of stuff, you know, crews touching it, etc. You know, it's just, again, it's a model, so you can have fun with it. And like I said before, there's no rhyme or reason why I'm doing any of this. It's just where I thought, okay, hey, that looks cool. Get it dirty and, you know, streak it. And for this model, I just used some cheap brushes. They're my beat up AK brushes. I forget exactly what brushes I used, but you know, it wasn't like this was kind of like a fun model, kind of experiment some different techniques, and you know, I didn't want to use some good stuff, so my brushes are kind of beat up on this one. Different streaking effects, different you know, tools. Like here, I'm using a fan brush, just because it can cover and streak that whole side plate pretty much in one pass. It might not be the best brush to use, but it got the job done. What are we adding? More rust, more filth. Here I'm just, again, I'm using the white mineral spirit, and it's just removing the product, and at the same time it's giving that subtle streak that I'm using with that fan brush. And it just, as you can see, it just, you know, it takes it down, but you can still kind of see the streak. And again, you know, it's just trying to simulate wear and tear on this thing. Now I'm using a little bit more direct, you know, isolated brush, where I can, you know, take more of the enamel product, and you can see I can kind of getting down to that base color. Again, you know, in between the coats, you know, I let it dry. I hit it with my hair dryer just to, you know, let the coats dry, and then I'll go back with my thinner and remove what I don't like, or if I have to add more, I add more. It's, again, it's a again, this is like having a, you know, an open canvas, because this vehicle's fictional, so you can make it look however you want to look. So again, like I was saying earlier, I didn't like the, you know, I wanted it more streaky, and I wanted to make it look more beat up, so I added more. And you can see here, I think this was an oil paint here, just because I could move it a little bit easier. And I just streak it down and just get it into those creases, and keep working it in until I like what I see. And this stuff dries flat, so that was the other bonus of it. Just working my way around the exterior of the hull, hitting the fronts, the backs, the side. Make sure the top gets its coverage as well. That crew access, that's the hatch right there. The laser blasters on the front. I don't know what kind of guns they are on the side, but there's some type of laser, or I know the one on the right side I believe is a grenade discharge. And again, I go back to the backside. As you can see, getting more dirty. Can never be dirty enough, I guess. As you can see how dark looking in those front windows. Those crew figures, you can see them if you shine a light in there, but it's so dark, you know. So all that painting and detail work that I put in the driver's area, you can't even see it, but it's cool. It looks cool. Imagine this is like the hull of a tank, and the head is the turret. You know, so this is the area where kind of like dirt and grime would just sit and collect, especially underneath of that turret since there's that space. So I just, you know, I add more grime colors. Hit those lower legs again. I felt that they weren't dirty enough. Here's more of that rusty color. And I just work it in. I don't want it to be too rusty because, you know, I can't imagine that the Emperor in the Star Wars series would allow such vehicles to be beat up and dirty. I assume this is some type of an exhaust or something, I don't know. But I made it as if it were. Hit the feet again. Just trying to, once I create a base for this thing, I'll add more dirt and blend it in with the base. You know, right there, it's just strictly, you know, the metal colors and the grime and stuff like that. But there's no earth tones on this thing. I didn't add any earth tones. Such as like dirt or mud or anything like that. So, but once I build a base for it, because it is going to be set in the jungle scene of the Endor battle, I will add mud, and not a lot, you know, but I will create a. I'll blend it in with its base display. And here, just removing some of the streaking. I think it was a little bit over the top, so I just wanted to remove some of that. And then I put it together here and then get it on its legs. The one thing about this model, I can say, it was a little bit fiddly. Or it was a little bit, it was awkward to get to stand right. Because the legs are all on hinges and they move up and down. You know, and obviously you could see the way it's designed. It's not the most stable platform, so it was a little difficult to get the pose of the model correct, or to what I wanted, not necessarily correct. But anyway, here I'm just adding some more blaster damage, deflection. But then I ended up, just brushing it out and just adding it and making it look more grime. If you can really see, I used the AK weathering pencil here, the smoke color, and I really didn't like the way I got the effect. I think I'd go back later, and I'm not sure if I recorded it, but I make one with my airbrush, which is similar to how I did the one on the front. And I use the AK brush just to give a little bit more variation, other than the oils and the enamels. Little dry brushing. This was the metal color. I think it's actually gunmetal, just to give it like some of that metal sheen on the corners. And this is it. So this is what the model looks like, the finished product. I thought it came out really cool. I really liked the build. It was super easy. It was fun. It wasn't really in depth, and it didn't take me a long time. So it was actually a good build to kind of like reset myself after building some in-length, World War II stuff. And this was just a fun kit. So I hope you like it. Again, and then I also played around with my pictures. Oh, look at that. He's a scale model junkie also. But yeah, here's some still shots of it. And I would definitely build something from Bandai again. Also, really appreciate if you like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out some of my other stuff that I've done. It really helps me get motivated to make stuff for this channel. I'm just trying to share my knowledge of scale modeling with the community. I really appreciate. I'm humbled by the amount of people that like and comment and watch my videos. It's awesome. But I really like sharing my knowledge with of what I know about this hobby with everyone else. It's the way I figure I can help give back, because when I was learning how to do a lot of the stuff, people helped me out. So I figured I would do the same, and what better way than YouTube to share what I do. And this is a fun hobby, and it's not too serious. And I hope you come back for the next one. All right, take care.